Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Knight, former chief of the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and talking to you today about one of the programs offered by the Department of Agriculture as a cost-share program to help farmers on conservation. That is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP. EQIP itself has over $1 billion a year in cost share that can be used to fund conservation across this country. So that means that somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, 25 to 35,000 farmers a year are able to write a contract with the government to share in the costs of doing anything from integrated pest management to conversion to no-till, soil conservation, terraces, water quality improvements, any of those things. Almost any conservation objective that a farmer has pertaining to soil improvement, water quality or quantity improvement, air quality improvement, or wildlife can potentially be funded through the EQIP program.
Here in the last several years, the EQIP program has become much more important, and we use that mainly in critical areas where you have head cuts going, where water's leaving your farm or even within fields. And we're using rock structures and in particular that slow down the water and change grade, and that's what we're mainly using that for now as far as the EQIP program.
I have been involved for the past 7 or 8 years in the EQIP program. And where I farm, we have center pivot irrigation systems. And when our irrigation systems were put in, it was a high pressure system. We'd lose a lot of water to evaporation. We had high pressure sprinklers on top of the systems that would shoot water up in the air. Well, they came out of a program to help us convert the systems. We installed drops all the way down to the truss rod. We put booster pumps on the end gun to get our long range 100 to 120 feet off of the end gun. That made a tremendous difference. We have gone from losing 4 to 5 tenths sometimes in the summer months when it would be in excess of 95 degrees to down to what we're thinking we're only losing 2 tenths at the most. It made a tremendous difference in our water savings, our fuel savings, and we're a lot more efficient at what we're doing.
With EQIP, one of our primary focus has been on soil testing, to try to do different levels of soil testing so we can build a database to try to obviously save on the high inputs of the fertilizer, and to make sure that we're adding what we need for each year and not over-fertilizing or under-fertilizing, which either way is counterproductive to our operation. It's helped us in the cost in developing those soil maps, the grids. We use GPS to try to soil sample in the same area each year, then try to apply through the soil testing, but multiple testings at multiple depths, which has made it quite productive for us.
I like to refer to EQIP and WIP both as fix-it programs in that they're very targeted and they're very specific. So if you're in irrigated agriculture and you're wanting to reduce your energy costs and reduce your water use by converting from flood irrigation to center pivot, EQIP could conceivably help pay for that some of that conversion cost because of the water quality benefits that'll be done there. A very specific, very targeted effort. Other parts of the country, it may be about integrated pest management, assistance in shifting into an IPM strategy and paying for the scouting and those sorts of things. That can be funded in some states by EQIP. Similar areas of the country where if you want to convert from conventional tillage to no-till.
Went from full till to minimum till, and that kind of puts us where we can plant flat. We're fairly flat where we are. It's a lot simpler to put on our fertilizer because now we inject fertilizer through the drip tape instead of another trip across the field. Even some insect controls put through the drip tape.
Again, EQIP can help with those things. Very targeted, very specific, very different than a whole farm conservation approach that is offered by some of the other programs.
The biggest part is it helps defray some of the cost in getting the equipment and the ability to take the time to get you to go out there and get these things done, do it properly, either to have a consultant or somebody come in and help you read the results and to accurately follow what the plan is. That the biggest benefit for us has been the cost savings on our fertilizer, which we feel like we've cut back 20 to 25% in our application to fertilizers.
It's a cost share program. The amount of cost share will vary from state to state, even by practice to practice.
In EQIP, the payment limit's going to be $450,000 for the life of this farm bill. So from 2014 to 2018, it's a $450,000 payment limit. What's important to keep in mind on EQIP is that with each new farm bill, that payment limit cap starts fresh. So a producer who was utilizing EQIP in the past farm bill and hit the payment caps on that can now start fresh under a new $450,000 payment cap. Now, for some folks, that sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at a commercial size grain or cotton operation or livestock operation, and you're doing a 50% cost share, if you're starting to replace irrigation systems or you're swapping out diesel engines in the California Valley, these kind of dollars add up very, very quickly. And that payment cap represents only a half of the investment, of 50% cost share. And so that also represents a tremendous return to the taxpayer from both the government investment and the producer.
Generally, though, it ranges from 50 to 75%, depending upon the cost of the practice, whether there's greater benefits to society or to the farmer. Quite frankly, if there's a lot of benefits back to the farmer, the cost share gets a little lower on the farmer, on the USDA side. If, on the other hand, you're doing a practice that's going to create habitat for endangered species, very costly, high concerns for the farmer, you may have a very high level of cost share associated with that practice.
In the law, there's supposed to be about 5% of those funds designated for a wildlife use. For the average cotton producer, I wouldn't worry about that at all, because if you add a few acres of habitat over here, your entire application is going to be ranked as a wildlife effort. And so it's more inside the beltway measurement minutia than something that really makes a difference to the average cotton producer.
There's also special niches of the cost share rules for socially disadvantaged and beginning farmers. And so a beginning farmer, somebody with just a few years of experience, can get a higher level of cost share under these programs than can an established farmer.
Many farmers around the country had voiced an opinion to NRCS that there were almost too many conservation programs, many of which with duplicating roles, program rules, those sorts of things. A prime example of that was actually the Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program and EQIP. Essentially the same programs, managed the same way, but two different sign-ups, two different programs, two different managers. But mostly the same roles. Congress merged those programs together. So now EQIP includes all the wildlife enhancements that were once done in the WIP program. Producers are wanting to do wildlife enhancements or wildlife practices now to enroll in EQIP, and a producer who is enrolling in some other aspect of EQIP that wants to improve their odds of acceptance would be wise to take a look at perhaps adding a few wildlife enhancements, because wildlife continues to be a high priority as a means of achieving the environmental objectives of the Environmental Quality Incentives Program.
If a producer is interested in participating in EQIP or any of the USDA programs, best thing they can do is go to your local USDA service center. There's one in almost every county in the nation, certainly in the Cotton Belt there is. Go there, sit down with an individual that's known as the district conservationist in the Natural Resources Conservation Service lingo. Sit down with the district conservationist and talk to them about what your conservation needs are, what your conservation dreams are, and talk to them about which programs they have that may be able to help assist that.
In applying for EQIP, of course, you go through your county offices, soil conservation, and you sign up, and there's an allocation, and then you work through their technical assistance, and then they have to lay that out to specifications and then oversee, getting that work done so that it's done right and it's up to specs and will do what it will perform like it's supposed to do.
They may encourage you to develop a whole conservation plan for your farm and actually offer to do that and pay for it. And that's a great first step, but you don't have to do that. You can also just do a simple application for EQIP and only have as much plan as you have conservation within EQIP. Once you submit that application, that will then go into the stack with EQIP applications. Those are quite often backlogged in many parts of the country, and once a year those applications will be pooled, ranked, and evaluated based off of the environmental merits. If your application is successful, you'll be asked to sign that contract, and then you'll be eligible for cost share assistance associated with whatever practice you're wanting to do on your farm operation.
Everybody is very well acquainted with the FSA office. Anybody in production agriculture they're on a first name basis with the people in the FSA office because of how important that program is. We need to develop a relationship and be in the same capacity with the NRCS office. In my county, I'm lucky I have someone like that. We've developed a great relationship with that. In fact, she'll call us and say, I got a program you probably ought to come look at.
In our area, without this program, there would be very little subsurface irrigation put in because of the cost. And in our particular area, there's 50% funding, and that's certainly halfway there. And when you can come up, you got the savings of the subsurface over the others, and the cost efficiency of it, and you can make up that difference in cost real easily. I don't know that you can make up the whole difference from changing from one system to the next without the EQIP funding. There
are a lot of things that we were not doing, and we found out through EQIP, if we do those, we'll get a benefit out of the farm, and the government will help us jump into and get established as far as buying some equipment and getting that part established on our farm. And then it has made a big difference in water savings, fuel savings, and it has definitely increased our profitability.
At the beginning of 2015, a new set of rules will be published for EQIP, and at that time should also be some indication of what the priorities are going to be. Traditionally, those national priorities tend to be things along the lines of water quantity or quality, air quantity or quality, as well as habitat for critical species. Now, that's a rather broad terminology, and what really matters are the priorities not that are established at the national level on the chief's desk in NRCS, but rather the priorities that are established at each state by the state conservationist with the state technical committee. And so that really gives a cotton producer the ability to fine-tune their EQIP application for the priorities for their given state. And so the priorities, both wildlife and water and air and natural resources in South Carolina are going to look a little different than Texas. They're certainly going to look a little different than California. And so it's incumbent upon an interested party in applying for EQIP to look at the ranking priorities for their particular state to make sure that the program you're applying for and the practices you're going to do on your farm match up with the priorities in your given state. It's very important to be cognizant of these state priorities. So if you're applying for EQIP or CSP, look for the state ranking. Work with the local NRCS office on what the priorities are in those ranking formulas. The other thing is to be very cognizant of those items of conservation that are very much in fashion with the administration at present. And when I talk about those, I'm thinking of a handful of things. Great emphasis and a great deal of interest in doing pollinators. Quite often special sideline additional sign-ups that are out there in EQIP around pollinators, but anytime you're doing something to improve the habitat for pollinators on the farm, you'll be improving the odds of being accepted into EQIP. A great deal of interest in NRCS on cover crops. And so if cover crops fit in your farm operation, and they don't in every farm operation, but when they do, if you want to enhance that, that will improve the odds for acceptance of a Conservation Security Program contract in many states. The last thing is there's a great deal of interest around the country in the conservation movement around soil health. So strategies that entail and embrace improving soil health, cover crops, irrigation water management, soil testing, organic matter management, all of those sorts of things that improve soil health will also improve the odds of having a CSP or an EQIP contract to be accepted.
And so the priorities throughout the Cotton Belt are going to vary from California and Arizona to North Carolina and Georgia, because those priorities are going to be very different. Some states, the priority is going to be water conservation associated with irrigation. Other parts of the area of the country, it may be integrated pest management and reduced pesticide use. Key thing here is working through your local commodity organization and the people that you associate with is to know what the priority is in your given state, because knowing that priority, you can in turn greatly improve your odds of your contract being accepted.